Welcome to Frenzied Printing. My name is Becky. I'll be your host. Let's get into today's video.
This video was a long time coming. I've been meaning to do it for quite some time now. This is going to be about some editing that you can do with the cut tool in the slicer. So this file was sent over to me by a user who wanted to strengthen the connection right here where the leg is attached to the rib. You can see it in the slice view. Right here. That's how this whole leg is attached to this model, is the tip of this rib. So it's not strong. Also, the tail piece right here is only attached by a little piece of plastic. And it's kind of a chunky tail. And I'm not being judgy, it's chonky. But yeah, so we're going to do some edits in the slicer without using any CAD and only using the slicer. So the first thing I'm going to do is rotate the model to make it nice and straight. This will help me use the tools that I'm going to use to make this model a little better, a little stronger, a little different. So I'm nice and straight. Now I'm going to use the cut tool, and I'm going to angle the plane of the cutting tool so that it wedges itself right in between that rib tip and the femur top. I'll get it as close as I can, and I'm not going to worry if it's not perfect because we can come back and clean that up later. So I'm going to move it around. This kind of navigation in the slicer can sometimes be annoying because you'll be trying to move your view or your perspective and you'll accidentally move the cutting plane. It'll happen quite a bit when you're new to doing this, but after a while, you'll make those mistakes a little less. Now that I have it set, I'm going to unselect or deselect the pieces that I do not want to cut. So I don't have to cut through my whole model, just pieces that touch each other. So I placed it pretty well. I'm going to deselect the other ribs and the jaw that I don't want to slice off, and any little piece that is not connected to that leg. Tiny itty bitty little pieces, don't forget to zoom in and deselect them. And then I'm going to cut. I deselected the place on cut check mark because that will rotate the parts, and I don't want them to rotate. I just want them to separate. So now I have my leg completely separated from my model. I can put it anywhere I want. It is now a separate object, or actually a part. It's a separate part of the same model. The difference is objects can be completely treated as a separate model, and parts belong to the overall project. So this will cut them to parts. I'm not doing any sort of fancy cutting tools like using connectors. I might show that in a different, like maybe a shorts film or something. I just didn't need it for this particular project. Ooh, you can see when I cut that leg off, I missed a little shrapnel of bone or two. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those away as well, just using the cutting tool, because those tiny little pieces are not detrimental to the overall project. So I'm just going to slice them away using the same method. Setting my plane and then deselecting anything that I need to deselect, or just getting it close enough. Make sure you zoom out and look at the whole thing, and then slice that tiny little speck off so it doesn't generate a support later or cause any problems. And now I'm going to address the bone protruding from the rear of the pelvis area, which is completely out of place. So I'm going to set up my cutting plane to slice that off of there. The tricky part about this was there's a tiny little bone that connects that protruding bone to the rest of the tailbone, and so you have to move the cutting plane back a little bit to exclude that connecting area. And then you can go in and deselect the rest of the tail and anything else that is in the blue cutting area. And once you've deselected or made them pink, you can cut away the blue. I'm going to make sure I rotate the whole view and make sure I didn't, oh, yep, I did. I missed a little thing. So you got to take a look at the whole picture, and then I cut it off. And I'm going to do the same thing with the left protruding bone, but I'm going to save a piece of that bone because now I have a really harsh slice on the back of the pelvis that's noticeable. So I kind of want to cover it up a little bit as best I can without using tools like Blender, which can be hard to navigate, or anything, other design tools. I'm going to use just the slicer and see what I can get away with. So I'm going to take a little piece of this bone that is, it has the right texture and appearance, and it's not like a harsh slice. So I'm going to save a little bit of it after I cut it here. Yep, I don't need the pink part, so I excluded it. Now I have a nice little chunk. I'm going to right-click it and export as STL and give it a name. And then I'm going to delete it. Go back to your project model, right-click, add part, load. Then I can select my little chunk, bring it back in, and now it's part of the whole project and not just a separate model part, which is fine too. If it was a separate model part, you can always assemble it later. I duplicated it, and now I'm going to right-click and I'm going to mirror that bone because I want it to face, the right way. I'm going to place my legs where I want my legs. Make sure they look nice and even and sink them into that pelvis bone a little bit so that they are nice and sturdy. We don't want them to be just attached by one little tiny piece. We want them to really be attached to the whole model. This is not an articulating model, so it really doesn't matter, just as long as they are strong. So now everything looks like it's all set. I'm going to go ahead and assemble the whole thing. So assembling is the same as merging. Basically, it's taking all of the parts or objects on the plate and it's merging them together as one. And then I used the corrector to go ahead and correct any manifold edges. Non-manifold edges are bad. They're parts that can be floating or separated by just a little sliver, and fixing them is a good idea. Now I'm going to fix that tail. All I did was right-click the model and I added a cylinder, and I'm going to make the cylinder the size that I need to fill in around that thin area. And then I have to move it and place it so that it makes sense. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm resizing it and putting it just in the right place so that it doesn't appear to be too chunky. Again, just trying to see what I can get away with without having to resort to taking this model out to like Tinkercad or Blender or wherever else. And sometimes if you're trying to use Tinkercad, these models have so many, this model came from Meshy AI. Sometimes it comes in with so many triangles because of all the texture and curves and things and complexity that you cannot export to Tinkercad. So for this tiny little fix, we really don't need to. I'm just coming in to clean up the tip of that rib because a little bit of the femur kind of stuck to it from my first cut. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to set my cutting plane to slice off that little femur tip, and then deselect the parts that I don't want to cut away. Make sure we look at the entire model and zoom out and zoom in so we don't accidentally cut off pieces that we didn't mean to. And then boom, we got rid of it. We're going to repair the model one more time. I probably could have waited on the repair and done it at the very end, but there we are. Looks great. If you're wondering how I got these supports to be so thin and streamlined, take a look at the support settings or watch my support video and look at my support settings in that video. I will link it. You can see the top of the femurs are now part of the pelvis bone, and that little peg that I added to the tail is nice and strong. So by now you all know how to cut normal, just like I showed, but now I'm going to show you the dovetail cut. A dovetail cut makes a little dovetail inside the cutting plane to make your piece connection stronger. That means you're going to have to slide each part into each other along this little track that it's going to make. I always angle my dovetail if I can to make it that much more stronger, because normal pull on parts is either up and down or left and right. It's not so much, at an angle and then slide. So I angle it. Then you have all of these other things that you can manipulate to change your dovetail shape and tolerance. The two at the right side of the columns are tolerances, where it'll make a little gap around your parts so that they slide together more easily. Everything in the left column is just mechanical. See, now we have two parts with the dovetails that fit together. This is another way to cut. You can add connector pins to your parts. If you have two parts that after you cut them, you're like, oh, now I have no way to connect these except for super glue, and I hope that's strong enough. There's a button that says add connectors. Mine says edit because I already played around with it prior, but here's all of the options once you click add connectors, that you can change the type of connection, the shape of connection, the style of connection, the depth, the size, the rotation, a bulge, a space, and then of course, on the right-hand column, two of those there say tolerance. When you hover over it, you can see the word tolerance flickers up. So that's another way to make a cut, plus add fitted connector pins to your parts, a negative space on one side, a positive pin sticking out of the other side, and then when it prints out, you can stick them together and have a little bit more assurance that they are going to stay connected and not just pop apart. So here's what that looks like. I've selected hexagon pin. Now I'm going to click to place my connection. I want it between the base of the sphere and the top of the cube, and then perform my cut. The cube has the connector pin. The sphere has a negative space that perfectly fits that connector pin. I'll slice it so you can see it easier. There you go. Now you know everything that I know about the cutting tools. Make sure you subscribe to get more neat tips like this one.